approach to things?
Well, I'm probably not the best person to. Well, I'm probably not the best person to ask because I haven't really listened to much rock music for the last 6 months. I've been listening to jazz and Latin stuff, and very little stuff in the English language at all. Have I listened to in the last 6 months or a year. But I thought Beck was interesting. I liked his album Mellow Gold.
What exactly has happened to you that would inspire you to want to listen to jazz and Latin music and Latin?
Well, I've always done that. Especially when I'm trying to write my own stuff, I find it very hard to listen to other rock music. I don't want to sort of lose concentration, and I find it easier to listen to something that's completely different to what I'm doing. So I'd rather listen to something African or something sung in Spanish or whatever. I just think that because it's like I'm working with rock music all day long, and I don't necessarily want to hear it all, night as well. I'd rather hear something different,
This is one of those, don't blame me, I'm just the interpreter questions. What to you is innocence? What does innocence mean to you?
Well, innocence is, being, it's about being innocent, about being naive, about the ways of the world, I suppose.
Maybe not being pretentious, I guess?
Yeah, well, I mean, if you're innocent, you're probably not pretentious, and you're probably quite, what's the word? Oh, you know what innocence means. I mean, I don't really... Look it up in a dictionary.
Maybe he asked this because he finds a certain that quality in your style, in your music, in your presentation, a certain innocence. Has that ever been a word directed at you before? Or is it...
No, I've got a song called Innocence.
Ah, okay.
Do you think that's what he's talking about?
I think that may be what he's talking about. Is it a value that you...
Well, that's a song about someone who's become completely degenerate because, they've just lost everything that would any kind of moral ground that anybody else would have held dear,
So it's an indictment of that person.
Well, it's not. It's a bit. It's quite sympathetic. It's not a complete indictment. It's just a bit. It's sad for the person who's watching them going downhill.
Okay. And he notes that in your music, you, I guess, talk about little stories, anecdotes about, like say, humorous episodes in life or episodes of joy, sadness, pain. I guess you're trying to portray just real life through your lyrics.
Well, yeah. I mean, I just tell it how I see it. The thing is, I think there were so many songs written by men for women to sing. When I was growing up, listening to the radio, there were so many songs where, like 90% of the time, it was a woman singing, "Ooh, baby, I can't live without you," and that to me is just, it's ridiculous. I mean, loads of women, support their families and get on with life and have to manage without a man, and to constantly portray them as these poor pathetic victims is to deny their strength and their resilience. And most of the women I know are very strong and resilient and intelligent people, and they don't lay down and die when the relationship falls apart, And the songs didn't seem to reflect real women, or real people. They just seemed to be some sort of chocolate box fantasy of what relationships are about. And so I think that you can see romance in real life. I don't think you have to sort of turn it into some kind of airbrushed commercial version, I think the real thing is just as romantic, warts and all,
Yeah. So you want to capture the realism of life and all of its in glory and embarrassment as well, huh?
Exactly.
I guess you said before something to the effect that you didn't want to have to play two different roles, the role of the pop star and then the role of a mother at home. I'm not exactly sure of the particular line you said.
Oh no, I don't. I mean, I do have those two roles. I mean, they're not. I mean, singing is it's my job and everything, but I don't go home and expect everyone to wait on me hand and foot, because I'd be waiting a long time.
He was wondering that I guess you're married to Steve Lillywhite, and you have 2 children, and he was wondering what your life at home is like.
Well, we're separated,
and
it's difficult to be away from the kids, like when I'm on tour, you know. It's hard to be separated for a month at a time. But they're pretty good, and they understand that, you know, that's my job, and we spend as much time together as we can. And when I'm home, I tend to be home more than most working parents, I suppose. You know, so it balances out, really.
Oh, I see. Okay. Now, you, as you mentioned a little while ago, you have a duet with Evan Dando on this record. The interviewer was wondering how exactly that collaboration came about.
Well, I met Evan a couple of years ago, and we were friends, and he used to phone us whenever he came to London, and then we'd run into him. We ran into him in Australia as well one time, and we'd sort of thought, you know, talked about possibly doing something together at some point, but we'd never made any firm plans. And when I was recording, when I wanted to do the new tracks for this album, I thought that Perfect Day would be a really good song to do as a duet, and as far as I knew, it hadn't been done like that. And I thought he'd be the ideal person to sing it with me, but I didn't have any idea of how to get hold of him because he travels all the time, and, you know, he's very elusive. And so I thought what I'd do was I'd just go ahead and record the backing track and then hope that he would, you know, turn up, or that I could get hold of him. And literally 2 days after I recorded it, he phoned up and said he was coming to London to do a show, and so I said, well, would you, do you fancy singing this with me? And I've already done it, and it's in A. And he said, yes, fine, okay, I'll see you tomorrow. So that was, it was fate, I suppose.
The interviewer was wondering about him in particular because he seems a bit different from the other artists you've collaborated with thus far. He, I guess, sort of notes tongue-in-cheek here that he seems more an artist who's more familiar with, say, sex and drugs than the other people you've worked with.
Oh, I don't think so.
I don't know how they got in there, but yeah, that's what he
what, doesn't he think Shane MacGowan's used to sex and drugs?
I guess that's a good point. And he notes that Perfect Day seems to be almost a follow-up to Fairy Tale of New York.
Oh, I hadn't thought of that, really. Well, I don't know. I mean, I don't think Evan is that different from the other people I've worked with. I mean, basically, he's a really good songwriter, and I really like his voice, and I think it works very well on that track. But I think he gets a lot of bad publicity, and I don't really understand why. I think people don't give him enough credit for his talent, really. Maybe it's because he's good-looking. People tend to kind of dismiss people who are good-looking.
Now, does what the actual song "Perfect Day" is the theme of that song? Does the theme of that song resonate to you personally?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't ever cover a song that I didn't relate to because you have to feel it's like part of your own set, And I think that the songs that I have covered have generally put my stamp on them. And that's what I've tried to do. Is, I don't think when you listen to the album and you get to one of the covers, you don't suddenly think, "Oh, look, she didn't write this." Doesn't sound anything like the others. I think it's I choose those particular songs because they mean a lot to me.
So, are you constantly on the lookout for covers, or do these?
No, I mean, there's so many songs that are brilliant, which I could do tomorrow. But I think really my main object is to write my own for the most part. It's just that I haven't done that many covers, but the ones I have done have been quite successful, so they're sort of quite well known, so people think I've done more than I have, really.
How about your songs? Have they been covered very much? We talked about the sort of Tracy Ullman.
Well, it's funny you should ask, because actually the Lemonheads did a version of one of my songs last year. And, there's been a few covers, but, I thought it was pretty cool when the Lemonheads did it, because, as I say, I like Evan's songwriting, and when somebody who's a good writer covers one of your songs, it's very flattering,
What's been your favorite cover of one of your songs so far?
I don't know.